Imagine an elderly man, wise and steady, standing quietly in the midst of a kingdom in turmoil. His physical strength may have waned, but his heart is fierce, loyal, and unwavering in faith. This is Barzillai, a lesser-known yet profoundly inspiring figure in the Bible, whose actions during King David's darkest hour reveal a legacy of loyalty, generosity, and purpose. When David found himself in desperate need, Barzillai stepped forward, offering his resources and presence without hesitation, a testament to the unique gifts that each season of life can bring. As we journey through Barzillai's story, we'll uncover timeless lessons on loyalty, humility, and the strength that comes with a life devoted to God. His life reminds us that true fulfillment doesn't come from recognition or status, but from faithfully serving others and embracing each moment as a gift. Whether you find yourself in a season of giving or seeking peace, Barzillai's story offers encouragement, showing us the beauty of a heart willing to serve with love and purpose. Barzillai's story begins in the quiet of an older man's life, where many would expect rest and retirement. Yet Barzillai, well into his 80s, held within him a strength that was both physical and spiritual. When David, the great king of Israel, found himself in a time of need, it was Barzillai who rose to help, a reminder that age does not diminish our purpose. Perhaps you too have felt the call to serve, even when the world expects you to slow down. Like Barzillai, your faith can be a guiding light, shining brightest in life's later years. Consider how Barzillai's strength didn't come from youthful vigor, but from a deep well of experience and wisdom. Life had shaped him into someone reliable, steady, and courageous. In those years, Barzillai's role was not about proving himself. He had done that in his younger days. His focus was on fulfilling God's call, using the wisdom he'd gained to make a difference. Isn't it comforting to know that God values every season of our lives and that each one holds unique opportunities to bless others? In his quiet yet steadfast way, Barzillai showed us that our purpose only grows as we age. While others might have shied away from the burdens of war, he found courage to support his friend David, sharing his wealth and resources generously. The people of his land knew Barzillai as a man of respect, honor, and faith, a legacy built over time. Have you ever considered how the choices you make today will inspire those around you? Like Barzillai, you are building a legacy that will last. Barzillai's faith went beyond words. It was a faith deeply woven into the fabric of his life. He did not hesitate when he saw David's need, because he knew who he served. His story reminds us that faith is not a phase of youth, but a lifetime journey. How wonderful it is to think that each day we can grow deeper in our faith, ready to stand firm and offer what we have, no matter our age or circumstances. The world may celebrate youth, but God celebrates faithfulness at every age. Barzillai's strength, shaped by years of trusting God, became a lifeline for David during his struggle. His presence was a powerful reminder of God's provision. So often, the strength that matters most comes from within, a truth that each of us can carry into our own lives. Imagine how Barzillai's quiet resilience inspired David in his time of need. In a world that prizes ambition, Barzillai's faith offers a counterpoint. True strength is found in a life anchored in God. Barzillai's legacy encourages us to find joy and purpose in each chapter of life. His story invites us to recognize that God's calling is not limited by age or ability. You too can be a light in your community, your family, or even among friends. Just as Barzillai's life touched David's, your life is filled with opportunities to shine. As you move forward, remember his example and embrace the power of faith that grows stronger, not weaker, with time. In times of war and turmoil, loyalty becomes a rare treasure. Barzillai's unwavering loyalty to David shines as an example of friendship that goes beyond words. It's rooted in a love that remains steady even when the world falls apart. When David faced betrayal and fled for his life, Barzillai didn't abandon him. Instead, he stood by David, offering the strength of friendship that can only be tested through hardship. Have you experienced friendships that have weathered the storms? Barzillai's commitment calls us to remember the value of such loyalty. Barzillai didn't have to come to David's aid. At his age, no one would have blamed him for staying in safety. Yet, he chose to walk into the danger, carrying provisions and comfort to the king in need. There's a lesson here about standing by those we love, even when it costs us. Perhaps you've had a friend or family member go through a difficult season. Like Barzillai, the act of showing up speaks volumes. Sometimes, loyalty isn't about grand gestures, but about faithfully being there, offering a shoulder to lean on. In Barzillai's story, we see that loyalty isn't bound by convenience. His loyalty was fierce and unyielding, grounded in a lifetime of faith and trust. Even when David's reign was uncertain, Barzillai trusted in God's greater plan, not in the shifting tides of human power. What a beautiful reminder that true loyalty finds its foundation in faith. How often have you been called to trust beyond what you can see? Through Barzillai, we see a loyalty that chooses to believe in the strength of God's promises. The heart of Barzillai's loyalty also shows us the courage to stand with others during their trials. His loyalty was tested, and he responded with a love that wasn't shaken by the dangers of war. This kind of loyalty is a gift, both to those who receive it and to those who give it. Think about the people in your life who have shown you loyalty, or those to whom you've been loyal. Like Barzillai, we're reminded that loyalty is often the greatest gift we can give, especially when someone's spirit is weary and in need. Barzillai's loyalty was a light in the darkness for David, and it allowed the king to face his challenges with renewed strength. As we reflect on this story, we can imagine David, weary and uncertain, seeing his old friend arrive with provisions and love. Loyalty, even in the smallest acts, brings hope and restores courage. Perhaps today there's someone in your life who needs a reminder that they're not alone. Through Barzillai's example, you can offer the same encouragement, choosing loyalty as a reflection of God's love. Through his actions, Barzillai teaches us that loyalty is a sacred bond, one that brings us closer to each other and to God. His commitment to David wasn't based on reward, but on a love that sought only to serve. How incredible it is to think that our loyalty can mirror God's own faithfulness to us. Barzillai's story invites us to cherish and protect the relationships that matter, standing by those we love through every season, just as he stood with David in times of peril. Barzillai's generosity to David went beyond mere kindness. It was an act of true sacrifice. When David was on the run, Barzillai didn't just offer what was convenient, he gave abundantly, knowing the depth of David's need. In our own lives, it's easy to give when it's comfortable, but Barzillai shows us the beauty in giving that requires sacrifice. His actions remind us that when we give from the heart, even when it costs us, we touch the lives of others in ways that bring glory to God. Have you ever experienced the joy that comes from a truly sacrificial gift? Barzillai's gift wasn't just about material support. It was a reflection of his love for God and his friend. When we give, especially when it involves a sacrifice, it connects us to the purpose of our faith. In a world that often measures value by gain, Barzillai's actions remind us of a higher call, to give freely and selflessly. His story challenges us to examine our own hearts and to consider how we can use our blessings to uplift others. Perhaps there's someone in your life who could be blessed by your generosity today. It's also important to see that Barzillai's sacrifice was not about seeking recognition. He wasn't looking for David's praise or for a place of honor. Instead, his heart was focused on serving, knowing that his reward lay in fulfilling God's will. What a beautiful picture of humility. This teaches us that true giving doesn't look for applause. It finds joy in the act itself. How might our lives change if we gave with a heart like Barzillai's, expecting nothing in return? Barzillai's willingness to serve in a time of crisis reminds us of the importance of being there for others, especially when they are in need. His actions were a powerful statement of love and faith. Think of someone who has been there for you in a challenging time, offering their support without hesitation. Like Barzillai, that kind of love is unforgettable. And when we give this way, it can be life-changing for those on the receiving end. The sacrifice of Barzillai's heart continues to inspire us today. Even though he could have stayed in comfort, he chose to step into the storm to support David. In our own lives, there will be times when giving isn't easy. Yet those moments of sacrificial love are often the ones that bring the deepest joy and fulfillment. Imagine the impact we could have if we followed Barzillai's example, looking for ways to be a blessing in both big and small ways. If this message of sacrificial love has touched your heart, please consider sharing how you've experienced the power of giving. Or if you prefer, comment with the word faith to show that you're journeying with us in this story of Barzillai and his unshakable devotion. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories from the Bible that speak to the heart. Barzillai's wisdom, honed over decades, was his quiet strength. When David faced a time of peril, Barzillai stepped forward, not with weapons or youthful energy, but with the steady wisdom that only a lifetime of faith could bring. His actions remind us that wisdom isn't just knowledge, it's the discernment to know when and how to act. As we reflect on Barzillai's story, we're reminded of the value in listening to those who have walked before us. Do you have someone in your life whose wisdom has been a light in your own journey? Barzillai's experience gave him insight that others might not have understood. He recognized that David's needs went beyond the immediate. He needed strength, supplies, and a reminder of God's provision. In this, Barzillai teaches us that wisdom looks beyond the surface. How often have we been called to see a need more deeply, to understand not just what someone wants, but what they truly require? Like Barzillai, we're encouraged to seek God's guidance, allowing him to shape our understanding of how best to serve others. The beauty of Barzillai's wisdom is that it came from a place of humility. He didn't view his years as a burden or as something that made him less capable. Instead, he saw his age and experience as gifts to be shared. What a powerful reminder for each of us. In a world that often prizes youth and speed, Barzillai's story shows us the gift of age, the patience, insight, and discernment that come only with time. Have you ever considered how your own experiences have prepared you to be a blessing to others? Barzillai's wisdom also led him to make decisions that reflected God's values, not just human expectations. When David offered him a place of honor, Barzillai declined, choosing instead the peaceful life he had always known. His wisdom wasn't drawn to fame or power, but to a life of quiet service. This choice is a testament to a heart that values God's peace over the noise of recognition. What a wonderful example of contentment and clarity of purpose. In Barzillai's story, we see that wisdom is both a gift and a responsibility. His wisdom guided him to serve David, to act in ways that were needed and not just convenient. It was this wisdom that helped sustain the king in one of his darkest hours. Today, we, too, are invited to grow in wisdom, seeking God's guidance to use our experiences for the good of those around us. Perhaps you can think of someone who needs your wisdom, your understanding, or simply your support. Just as Barzillai did for David, you have the opportunity to be a steady hand in someone's life. Finally, Barzillai's wisdom teaches us that each of us carries within us a strength that only grows with time. It's a reminder that our lives are rich tapestries woven with stories, lessons, and blessings. As you think about Barzillai's life, remember that God values the wisdom you bring, no matter your age or stage of life. Like Barzillai, you have so much to give, so many ways to make a difference in the lives of those you encounter. Barzillai's humility stands out as one of his most defining traits. When David offered him a place of honor at the palace as a reward for his loyalty, Barzillai graciously declined. He wasn't motivated by fame or power, but by a desire to live simply and faithfully. His humility reminds us that a true hero often walks quietly, seeking no applause. In a world that often prizes recognition, Barzillai's choice teaches us the beauty of quiet service. Have you ever found joy in giving without seeking anything in return? Choosing to remain in his homeland, Barzillai showed that his heart was grounded in God's peace. The palace and all its grandeur didn't attract him. Instead, he valued the simple life he'd known and cherished. There's wisdom in his decision that speaks to us about contentment. He wasn't swayed by the allure of status, but remained true to his values. How refreshing it is to know that real fulfillment doesn't come from outward recognition, but from a heart at peace. Have you ever felt that same contentment in choosing a humble path? Barzillai's humility also reveals a deep trust in God's provision. He didn't need earthly rewards to affirm his worth. His life was a reflection of faith, knowing that his reward came from serving God. Imagine a life where every action stems from love and not from the desire for approval. Barzillai's story encourages us to live with a spirit of humility, finding peace in knowing that God sees and values every quiet act of kindness. Sometimes the greatest rewards are the ones unseen by the world. In declining David's offer, Barzillai showed us that humility often means knowing when to say no, even to great opportunities. He understood that his purpose wasn't to seek honor, but to serve where he was needed. This decision must have required courage and a strong sense of self. How powerful it is to realize that humility doesn't mean thinking less of ourselves, but understanding where God calls us to be. Have you ever had to choose between what's expected of you and what you felt was truly right? Barzillai's humility also left a legacy for his family. By choosing a life of simplicity and grace, he showed his children and those around him the beauty of a heart focused on service rather than status. His choice reminds us that our values speak louder than any position or title. What a gift it is to leave a legacy rooted in faith, humility, and love. As you reflect on his story, perhaps you can think of ways to build a legacy that reflects your own values and faith. Finally, Barzillai's humility invites us to embrace a heart of grace. His life shows us that we don't need to chase honor to have a life that matters. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from small acts of love, a listening ear, or a simple act of kindness. Barzillai's story reminds us that God often works through those who are willing to serve quietly and faithfully. And in our own lives, we are invited to follow his example, choosing humility and grace as we walk our path of faith. Barzillai's kindness didn't just impact David, it also left a mark on his family and those who knew him. His decision to serve and sacrifice for a friend became a legacy that his children and community would carry forward. Imagine how his family felt, knowing their father's life was marked by generosity and loyalty. Through Barzillai, we see that our actions today have a ripple effect, shaping the lives of those we love. Have you ever felt inspired by the kindness of someone close to you, someone whose life left an imprint on yours? In honoring David, Barzillai set a powerful example of faithfulness for his family. His values were more than words. They were actions that spoke of loyalty, courage, and a steadfast heart. Barzillai's kindness created a legacy that his children could look to as a model for their own lives. When we act with integrity, those closest to us witness it, and it can shape how they live. How incredible it is to think that through our own choices, we have the chance to leave a legacy that encourages others to walk in faith and love. Barzillai's kindness also extended beyond his immediate family to everyone around him. His life was a testament to the strength of a generous heart, and those who knew him were likely touched by his example. Imagine the impact of a life dedicated to helping others, especially during times of hardship. Barzillai shows us that kindness, even when small, creates a lasting impact. It's a reminder that we each have the power to influence others in ways that honor God and uplift those around us. The legacy of Barzillai's kindness became a part of his family's heritage. When David offered to bring Barzillai to the palace, he instead sent his son, Chimham, to represent him. This decision shows how Barzillai's influence was passed on, with his son carrying forward the values of service and honor. It's a beautiful image of generational blessing, where kindness and loyalty become gifts we pass down. As we think of Barzillai's life, we are reminded of the importance of nurturing a spirit of kindness in those we love. Barzillai's legacy of kindness invites us to think about the mark we leave on others. His story challenges us to consider how we can create an atmosphere of love and generosity in our own families. Perhaps there are ways we can be more intentional in showing kindness, knowing that our actions today could inspire future generations. Like Barzillai, each of us has the opportunity to sow seeds of love and compassion that will bloom long after we're gone. Who in your life has influenced you with their kindness? In reflecting on Barzillai's legacy, we see that kindness is a powerful force. It builds bridges, heals wounds, and creates connections that endure. Through his life, Barzillai reminds us that the kindness we show has the potential to touch not just those we help directly, but all who come after. His story invites us to consider how we can leave a legacy of kindness that will bless others, just as he blessed David. And like Barzillai, we too can live with an open heart, trusting that our kindness will resonate far beyond our own time. Barzillai's life was marked by a generous spirit, one that gave without hesitation. His willingness to support David, even at great personal cost, reveals a heart that found joy in giving. This generosity wasn't merely an act of duty, it was an outpouring of love and faith. Through Barzillai, we see that a generous heart is a blessed heart. God calls us to give, not out of obligation, but because giving enriches both the giver and the receiver. Have you ever experienced the deep satisfaction that comes from giving wholeheartedly? Barzillai's story teaches us that generosity opens doors to blessings we may not expect. By helping David, Barzillai became part of a divine plan, impacting not only the king, but also the future of Israel. His generosity wasn't about seeking rewards. It was an expression of faith and compassion. Yet in giving freely, he found himself blessed beyond measure. Sometimes the simple act of giving can create blessings we never anticipated. Have you noticed that giving, even in small ways, can fill your heart with joy? True generosity, as shown by Barzillai, doesn't just focus on material gifts. It's about sharing our time, our love, and our presence with others. For Barzillai, supporting David was a way to be there for a friend in need. His actions remind us that generosity is often about the simple willingness to show up, to be present in someone's life. How often have we had the chance to bless others just by being there, by listening, or by lending a hand? Barzillai's life reminds us that generosity is a gift we can offer daily. The beauty of Barzillai's generosity is that it came from a heart that trusted in God's provision. He gave freely because he knew that God would continue to provide for him. This kind of faith-filled generosity teaches us that we don't need to hold tightly to what we have. When we trust in God's abundance, we are free to give with an open heart. Barzillai's example challenges us to consider how we might let go of our fears and trust that our generosity will be met with God's grace. Through his actions, Barzillai reminds us that a generous spirit has the power to inspire others. David, weary from the trials he faced, found renewed strength through Barzillai's kindness. Imagine the difference we could make in others' lives by embracing the same spirit of generosity. When we give, we create an atmosphere of love and encouragement, offering hope to those who need it most. Barzillai's life teaches us that our generosity can have a lasting impact, one that goes far beyond our intentions. In reflecting on Barzillai's legacy, we are invited to cultivate a heart that both gives and receives. Just as he gave generously, he was also willing to receive blessings when they came. His story teaches us that there is a balance in giving and receiving, and that both are gifts from God. As we look at our own lives, may we find the courage to give freely and the grace to receive, trusting that each act of generosity brings us closer to the heart of God. Barzillai's presence during David's darkest moments was a gift of love and friendship that went beyond words. He didn't need to solve David's problems or have all the answers. Simply being there for his friend spoke volumes. Often we underestimate the power of our presence, believing we need to do something grand to make a difference. Yet Barzillai shows us that just being with someone in their time of need is one of the most profound acts of love. Have you ever felt the comfort of someone simply being there for you? In times of trial, having someone by our side can give us the strength to carry on. Barzillai's quiet support offered David a reminder that he wasn't alone, even as he faced tremendous challenges. Through his presence, Barzillai became a steady light in a moment of darkness, reminding David of God's faithfulness. His story invites us to remember that we, too, can be a light for others, offering support simply by showing up. Think of a time when you needed someone's presence in a difficult season. How powerful that gift can be. Barzillai's presence reminds us that sometimes words aren't necessary. David likely found comfort in knowing he had a friend who stood with him without needing explanations. This silent companionship is a reminder that we don't always need to have the right words. Our presence alone can bring peace. It's a beautiful picture of God's love for us, a love that doesn't always need words, but is simply present. Have you ever been able to bring comfort to someone just by being there without needing to say anything? Through his presence, Barzillai showed David that true friendship isn't conditional. He wasn't there for praise or reward. He was there because he cared. This kind of friendship is rare and precious, offering a love that isn't shaken by circumstances. In a world where relationships often come with expectations, Barzillai's example reminds us that love can be pure, expecting nothing in return. Reflecting on his story, we're encouraged to be that kind of friend, giving our presence freely to those who need it most. Barzillai's support in David's life illustrates the beauty of friendship rooted in faith. He was willing to walk alongside David, knowing that his presence was enough to bring comfort. This story invites us to consider the role we play in the lives of our friends and loved ones. Like Barzillai, we have the opportunity to be a blessing, to offer a calming presence in times of trouble. When we choose to stand by someone, we are showing them a glimpse of God's steadfast love. As we reflect on Barzillai's life, we see that being there for others is one of the greatest gifts we can offer. His story challenges us to remember that our presence has value, even when we feel we have little to offer. Sometimes the simple act of being there is all that's needed to make a difference. So let us, like Barzillai, embrace the power of presence, choosing to walk with others in their darkest moments, knowing that our love and friendship are reflections of God's unwavering faithfulness. Barzillai's story is a powerful reminder that every stage of life has purpose. Well into his 80s, he didn't retreat from life or see his age as a limitation. Instead, he used his experience and wisdom to bless others, especially David. Barzillai's life teaches us that growing older doesn't mean losing purpose. Rather, it means embracing the unique callings that come with each season. Have you ever considered how God is using you in this stage of your life, shaping you to be a blessing in ways that only you can be? In Barzillai, we see a life lived with intention. He didn't wait for the perfect moment to act. He served David wholeheartedly when the opportunity arose. His actions encourage us to seek purpose daily, knowing that God has plans for us at every age. Sometimes we may feel like our best years are behind us, but Barzillai's story reassures us that God's work in us is never complete. What a beautiful thought, that each day holds new chances to make a difference, regardless of our age. As we reflect on Barzillai's example, we're reminded that growing older can be a journey of discovering new ways to serve. In his story, age wasn't a barrier, but a blessing, giving him insight and perspective that younger men might not have had. His life teaches us that wisdom grows with time, shaping us into people who can offer guidance and support to others. Have you ever thought of how your experiences have equipped you to serve others in a way only you can? Barzillai's purpose wasn't defined by titles or positions, but by a heart willing to serve. He could have chosen to stay home, yet he recognized that his purpose lay in supporting David. This choice teaches us that purpose isn't about grand achievements, but about faithfully answering God's call, whatever it may be. As we grow older, we're invited to embrace a purpose that may look different from before, one that is rooted in serving with love and humility. What new purpose might God be calling you to in this season? The story of Barzillai encourages us to see age as a gift. His life is a testament to the idea that growing older is not a loss but a gain, a time to deepen our faith, nurture relationships, and become sources of strength for others. Imagine how our lives could change if we viewed each season as an opportunity to grow and serve. Barzillai's story reminds us that God values our experiences and the unique contributions we bring to each stage of life. As we reflect on his journey, let's embrace the purpose that each season offers, knowing that God has a plan for us at every age. Barzillai's life is a call to live with intention, to trust that God is working through us in ways we may not always see. And like him, we're invited to find joy in the blessings of each day, knowing that our purpose is found in faithfully walking the path God has laid out for us, one step at a time. Barzillai's life is a beautiful example of what it means to live well and finish well. As he grew older, his focus was not on gaining wealth or prestige, but on serving God and others. In the quiet of his later years, he found peace in a life well lived, where humility and kindness took precedence over recognition. Barzillai's story encourages us to consider what it means to live a life of purpose and grace. Have you ever thought about what it would look like to find peace in a life of simple, faithful service? The peace that Barzillai enjoyed wasn't dependent on circumstances, but rooted in his relationship with God. Even as he supported David in times of war, he carried a calm assurance that came from knowing he was fulfilling his purpose. His life teaches us that true peace isn't found in avoiding challenges, but in embracing God's call with a humble heart. What a comforting reminder that peace is possible, even in difficult times when we walk with God. Have you experienced moments of peace that came from simply trusting God's plan? In choosing to stay behind when David invited him to the palace, Barzillai demonstrated a contentment that many spend their lives seeking. He didn't need the honors of the palace. His joy came from knowing he had done his part. Through his choice, we're reminded that a life well lived isn't measured by fame or status, but by a heart that serves with love. What might it look like to find contentment, not in achievements, but in a life marked by faithfulness and humility? Barzillai's peace also extended to his family. By living with integrity, he left a legacy that would inspire future generations. His story teaches us that the peace we cultivate within ourselves can become a blessing for those around us. Imagine the impact on our families and friends when we live in a way that prioritizes kindness and humility. Barzillai's life invites us to create a legacy of peace, one that reflects God's love and goodness to all who know us. In his final years, Barzillai enjoyed the blessings of a life dedicated to God's service. His story encourages us to find joy in each season, embracing the blessings that come from a heart devoted to God. We're reminded that our lives can be a source of inspiration, showing others the beauty of a humble, peaceful spirit. As we consider his life, we see that our greatest impact often comes from the quiet strength of a life lived with purpose and grace. As we close this reflection on Barzillai's life, may we each strive to live with the same humility and peace he displayed. His story is a call to serve faithfully, to love generously, and to embrace each day as a gift. And like Barzillai, may we find joy and contentment in a life that honors God, knowing that the peace we carry within us is the greatest gift we can offer to the world. As we reflect on Barzillai's life, we're reminded of the beauty in living with a heart of humility, generosity, and purpose. His quiet support for David in a time of crisis, his unwavering loyalty, and his choice to live simply reflect a deep peace that only comes from a life anchored in faith. Barzillai shows us that our impact is not measured by fame or accolades, but by the love and kindness we offer each day. His story invites us to embrace each season of life, knowing that God has a purpose for us, regardless of age or circumstance. May Barzillai's example inspire us to live with open hearts, finding contentment in serving God and others. As we seek to follow his path, let's strive to create a legacy rooted in faith, kindness, and quiet strength. May this journey through Barzillai's life remind us that true fulfillment is found in faithfully walking with God. Prayer of blessing. Dear Lord, thank you for the example of Barzillai and his humble, giving heart. Help us to live with the same spirit of generosity and loyalty, finding joy in serving you and those around us. Teach us to embrace each season of life with purpose, knowing that you are guiding us every step of the way. May our lives be a reflection of your love, leaving a legacy that honors you. Amen. If this message has touched your heart, please leave a comment below. Share how Barzillai's story has inspired you, or simply write the word "blessed" to show that you're with us on this journey of faith. Don't forget to share this story with friends and family who may need this encouragement, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of faith. Together, let's keep growing in hope and purpose through these timeless lessons.